This is the season of color and you can't stop me. Obviously, no one is knitting up all of these things in the next few months, but a girl can try, okay? I decided that this year, my big holiday knit project is going to be
I'm Nora, and this is also known as Nora Knits.
Hello there, I'm Nora, and you're watching, also known as Nora Knits. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode today. As you can tell by the sweater I have on right now, we are officially embracing fall and fall knitting and all that comes along with that, especially when you think about the fact that this is also just kind of what I'm knitting for the rest of the year. So that's what we're going to be chatting about today. I have a few, I think, reasonable goals. I have a few projects I really want to finish. I have some more far-fetched goals, and it's just a nice time to sit down and really review what's on my needles, what I want to get off of my needles, and then what I want to get back on them. Before we get into it, I figured that being that this is a seasonal check-in, I should mention the fact that I am hosting this year-long knit-along called 2025 from the vault. This has been my urge to just use what you have. I've really been focusing on trying to use what is in my yarn stash, what is in my pattern library, and this knit-along has been a way to just encourage you to do the same. If you have been participating in 2025 from the vault, then you are in luck because I am going to be pulling some names for a giveaway. I will be selecting 3 winners. One will be from Instagram, randomly picked by anyone who has used the hashtag 2025 from the vault. One from the comments on this video, hashtag 2025 from the vault, and then one from any comment across my YouTube channel throughout the whole year, hashtag 2025 from the vault. So you still have time to enter. I will be selecting those winners to be announced on the video that will be coming out on September 20th. So you have 2 weeks from this video's release to make sure you get your comments in and just let us know what you're working on using what you've got. Any other details I'll have on the screen here. But with all of that out of the way, I think we should go ahead and dive right in. Super quickly, what I'm wearing here today was, I believe, a fall make from last year. So this is my Feel Good Cable Sweater by Anne Catherine Stoll, I think. And I knit this out of Barocco Ultra Wool. It's just a super oversized, cozy sweater. I did finish mine and then actually have to go back and make some modifications to remove a little bit of length, and I actually worked some short rows to balance out the front and back of this sweater. And I remember kind of laughing when I finished it, saying like, I don't know when I actually plan to wear this, as it's like a very kind of exposed yet chunky sweater. However, this time of year literally is the perfect time. It's kind of the first thing that I just chuck on the moment the weather cools down a little bit. And so I've been really enjoying it, wearing it the past couple of days. With that out of the way, let us chat about what I have on my needles currently. And there's actually a spoiler in here because there's a project you guys haven't seen yet. You will see it for the first time in the next podcast episode. So current active whips. We have my Darling Cardigan by Veronica Lindbergh, Kutova Kika, the Dachshund by Alan Dart, my camisole number 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, which is my final summer knit, as well as my Stitches sweater, and the new cast on you guys will see in the next podcast is the Miles shirt jacket by Haley Smedley Ozetta. The status of all of those things are a little bit mixed, but the Darling Cardigan and the Dachshund are basically done. So I'm just finishing up a few details there. That camisole number 7 has been calling my name, and I really just need to dedicate some good time to finishing that one up. So that leaves me with my Miles shirt jacket and my Stitches sweater, which I think I will return to discussing when I get to the end of these other plans and I come back to some deadlines I'd like to meet. So getting into the plans, these really are in no particular order. They're just some things I have on the docket that I would love to get to this fall. Obviously, I won't be getting to all of them, and who knows if I'll get to any of them. I just looked through my stash, I looked through my Ravelry favorites, and this is what I've come up with. So the first thing I wanted to chat about is the Fluffy Fleece Vest by Johanna Roos. This is a very fun little boucle vest, and it's finished with these gorgeous little I-cord edges. It truly does look like something that maybe might not even be knit, but more of just like a fun kind of fuzzy boucle vest. I love this look so much, and the moment I saw it, I thought that this yarn I had in stash would be so perfect. And that is this gorgeous Explorer Knits and Fibers Boucle DK in the colorway Roller Skate Red. Now my friend Shayla from Black Pearl Magic actually sent this to me, and little did she know at the time that I actually had this mohair that matches this color so perfectly. Being that these are each 100-gram skeins, so I have 500 grams here. I do think that I have plenty to get this vest done, but I also just think it'd be really fun to hold a strand of this mohair along with it. That's the plan I have right now. I always feel weird though breaking up a quantity of yarn like this. It looks like the pattern calls for my size, which by the way is the largest size. And I also would plan to knit mine just a little bit more cropped, but the size that I plan to knit calls for 350 grams of Teddy Deer by Gepard Garn, which I do believe is a little bit of a chunkier yarn. So if that's the case, I might even have to double this up or something. I have to look into this a little bit more, but I did just think that this would be a really fun little extra layering piece to pop on throughout the cooler months. I kind of love the idea of this outfit wearing this vest over like a black and white striped shirt and just some jeans and flats. I think could look so cute. However, I could also see this kind of becoming more of a cardigan. So you let me know kind of what you think there. Should I go more vest, more cardigan? If I go the vest route though, it is going to be this fluffy fleece vest. The next idea I had for fall knitting plans was to utilize some yarn that I did just purchase at a local yarn store's closing sale, and that was this Ella Rae Classic Wool. It's 100% wool in this really gorgeous Kelly green color, which by the way, when I was telling you guys I bought this, I just called this the perfect Kelly green, and I had no idea at the time that the name of this color actually is Kelly green. So it really is the perfect Kelly green. Now, I so heard all of you when you said that this should be knit up into something cabled. I love that idea. I just don't think that I have enough yarn realistically to knit this up into something cabled in my size unless I knit this into a vest. Who knows? I could change my mind there. I don't hate that plan, but I did picture something in this color, a little more crisp and kind of just clean line silhouettes. So I thought of maybe a bomber jacket style cardigan for this. The closest thing I was able to find, and I'll admit that this isn't exactly what I had in mind, but it is close enough, is the Everydat Bomber by Jeanette Knits. So this is a bomber style cardigan that's knit from the top down. And so it has a full zipper closure on the front, which I just think looks very sleek and sophisticated. The only thing that when I look at the project photos here is I feel for my style, I would want to knit this a little bit more boxy and oversized rather than, and just the littlest bit more cropped. I wouldn't want it to be cropped by any means, just to sit more right on the widest point of my hips rather than falling kind of longer past that. That's just how the fit looks to me on a lot of the projects that I'm seeing here. So I kind of feel like this is close, but I did want to throw this out to you guys as an idea because I think a bomber style jacket in this cardigan, I was trying to decide what was it that made me want to knit certain yarns into a cardigan versus a sweater. And I think for me, the ultimate sort of deciding factor is how well does this color integrate with the rest of my wardrobe? If this color I didn't think would kind of pair well with other things I own, I would say, let me just go ahead and make a sweater out of it. That way I only ever have to figure out what jeans and shoes to wear alongside it. But because I think that this particular green would pop super, super well with a lot of the other neutrals that I like to wear, I think that this would make an excellent jacket style cardigan to pair with other tops I own. And it would ultimately just be a little bit more versatile in my wardrobe. And I'll make more of a point of that a little bit later when I show you a different yarn that I'm planning to make into a sweater. So things I love about this pattern in particular is the sort of kind of slant that happens on the collar. I think that's super indicative of a bomber jacket, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I love the zipper. Now, I also really like the ribbing at the bottom, but this is where I'm wondering if I saw something along the way, be it a cardigan or a sweater, that only had the ribbing on the back and then kind of the sides of the cardigan, so that maybe the first 6 inches on either side of the cardigan was actually just a clean knit folded finish or something like that. There's something in the back of my brain that I'm remembering seeing, whether it be store-bought or otherwise, that I kind of want to replicate the look of, and I just can't actually find what it was. So currently that only lives in my head, and I'm hoping you can help me bring it out into the real world. So if you know what it is that I'm talking about, even if it's just a regular cardigan that I could add a zipper to and kind of modify a few things, I'd love to know. So yeah, bomber jacket, sleek silhouette, a little sophisticated, a little tailored. That's kind of what I'm thinking for this one. The next plan is going to be one that you've seen before. I don't know if this was in my spring knitting plans or when I wanted to knit this, but this is something I think would be really great to have in the fall, and that is the Clematis Sweater by Emma Mare. I've knit up the Clematis vest before, and it's one of my most worn summer knits as I knit it out of some Sandisgarn Lena, so it's more of a tank top style for me, but I get compliments on that all the time just because of how fun and different the diagonal button band is. So I have had this yarn in my stash for this specific project for a little bit now, and that is the Knit Picks palette and the Knit Picks Aloft. The Aloft is in the colorway Mountain Fern Heather, and I think that this palette is in the colorway Capers. I absolutely adore this like olivey color for me. I think that this is a colorway that works really nicely in my palette, and yet I don't have enough of in my wardrobe. So I feel like this sweater being something that's a little bit lighter weight, and also with that button placket going across, you're not totally sealed in. It's a little bit more of a transitional piece, I believe. And I think it would look really fantastic just with jeans on a good fall day. This pattern has that slight drop shoulder. And then, of course, the star of the show is the button band that goes diagonally across. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the new petite knit design that's coming out soon. And it also features this diagonal button band. I believe from the photos that I've seen that is actually just going to be one of those button bands where there's no overlapping. So it looks to me from the photos she shared so far on Instagram that it's just going to have kind of a slit and then a button and a slit and a button. And for me and my life, that wouldn't be the most practical thing. So if you saw that petite knit pattern and you didn't know about the Emma Mare Clematis Sweater pattern, but you thought similarly, you liked that diagonal button band detail, but maybe you don't want to have those slit openings out, then I think that this is going to be the sweater for you. And those are just the things that you have to remember when you're looking at two really similar patterns. I've had this one in my library. I love Emma's knits. I love pretty much all of her designs. I think that they're really, really fun twists on otherwise basic garments. And this won't be the last MMA pattern that I have in my plans this season. So would love to get this one done. Also going to mention this again in that deadline because I have a very specific and kind of quirky deadline to knit this one up in. So I could say that this is probably a little bit more of a strong plan, but also everything's up for debate. While I have this out, I do want to mention another pattern that I might be able to use some leftovers if I have any from knitting up this Clematis sweater and put those towards another project. So I love that, right? I'm already planning ahead for what to do with that leftover ball of yarn. And this is a pattern that I actually mentioned super recently in my Free People Can I Knit It for Less video. And since then, it has been scattered across all of my social media pages. In that video, I did predict that it would be the new porcelain sweater, and at this point, that's feeling very true because I'm seeing it everywhere, just like I saw the porcelain sweater everywhere. It is the same designer, so she clearly has this amazing aesthetic of just a keen eye of putting linear patterns across a sweater. I didn't even mention, we're talking about the Rosie Sweater by Lene Homa Samso, and the porcelain sweater was this just kind of oversized sweater that featured motifs that you would otherwise typically see on porcelain dishware, which I really loved the look of. But if you know me, you know that blue isn't my favorite color. And for me, the best versions of that sweater were the ones that utilize that very traditional blue and white kind of coloring. So I never felt compelled to stray away from that. This sweater, on the other hand, I think just features that perfect balance of linear motifs, which just keep it very graphic and modern. But because it's these really beautiful roses vining just across the sweater, it's also very soft and romantic. So I love, love, love that combination. And I've been looking through the project pages. So many people are already knitting this sweater, and I'm loving the color combos, but I was trying to figure out what it was about certain color combos that I was liking more than others. So the original is, of course, knit in this more like oatmeal colored yarn. And then the roses themselves are very chocolatey. And I do really appreciate the roses not being red, but I also, I like a red rose. And then going through the project pages, most people have adhered to that idea of a neutral, light white cream background and then a color on the roses. However, there are a few people who have strayed away, and it has intrigued me greatly. For starters, we have this mid-project shot by Hanny71, and this person seems to have used a cream oatmeal colored background and then has done the roses in a true rosy color, with then the vines and the leaves actually being green. And I just love that. I also think that my favorite project of all of these is West Maven's Rosie, and she did a black background with these gorgeously variegated yarns for the roses. They're almost tie-dyed with these sort of lilac and orange and punchy pinks sort of colors. And then the leaves are also variegated with a mostly green base dipping into, again, some of those oranges and lilacs too. I think that this just looks so stunning, and it kind of made me flip all of my thoughts around. So I have a few different ideas for how I would maybe knit this sweater. However, each combination would be using the same yarn, and that would be this Juniper Moon Farm Patagonia Organic Merino in the colorways Pearl and Rose. I know it's a little on the nose, but I'm kind of into it. So idea A is background in pearl, roses in rose. I will have photos to supplement my ideas here. Option B is background in rose, roses in pearl, which I think I just like that contrast of kind of flipping the light and dark on its head from the original. I think that's very fun. Also, the idea of the rose colorway being the background. It's not so on the nose of rose being rose, but you get that point because it's still worked into the sweater. Option C is background pearl, rose in rose, and then leaves and vines in caper. This color combination is the three of these together. I would be happy with an entire wardrobe in just this combination. So I love the idea of introducing the green into those leaves and vines. I don't know if that's a little too kitschy, but I think I just love that idea. So that would be option C. And then similarly, option D is background in rose, roses in pearl, and then again the leaves in the capers color. And I think it would also just be fun if I have more of the mohair, or I do actually have another kind of green mohair I could hold with this just to add a little bit more texture and use a little bit more stash. But please tell me what you would vote for as far as which of these to knit, because I missed out on the whole porcelain sweater hype. I kind of want to get in on the Rosie Sweater hype. I'm not usually the knitter who jumps onto these trends in this way, so seems like fun, a little change up. Let me know your thoughts on that. Then to come back to Emma Mare, another returning plan is a second Artemisia sweater, which I had originally test knit for Emma out of the Mohair by Canard Boucle, and it is that beautiful teddy bear color. It really matches well to my little pup OC, and I love that sweater so much. And it was a very fun, quick, satisfying knit. It is a raglan knit from the top down. And if you saw last week's podcast episode, then you may have heard me mention I just don't have enough plans for very basic sweaters. And what I find myself doing then is having these moments of time where I would love to sit down and knit, but I either just don't have the capacity to work on something where I'm following a chart or a pattern very explicitly, or I do love to knit on something while we're watching our soccer games weekly. And so I find that if I don't have anything just simple stockinette in the round, I feel like it's wasted time that I love to be knitting during. So I had bought this yarn to knit up a second Artemisia sweater, and that is the plan. And this is another one that's going to come back to a funny little deadline. How fun is this? We have the Knit Picks Bubbly Boucle. It's their sport weight boucle in the colorway Popping Candy. And for the collar, cuffs, hem, I would be using this Knit Picks palette in the colorway Cosmopolitan. So I just think that this would be really fun. I also kind of have a mission with this one of wanting to find out, in order to knit up the Artemisia sweater, would I need to hold this yarn single or double, because my first Artemisia was like the most expensive project I had ever made, and I received a hefty discount on that yarn because I test knit it. But since I enjoyed the project so much, I just wanted to offer up a more affordable option that was maybe less obvious than the Drops Alpaca Boucle yarn. So I want to do a little bit of homework for you guys and try to figure out how I can make this boucle work, because it also has so many fun colors. So this is one I would really love to get done this year, and I think it's possible since it's a simple knit. It can be my go-to just simple sweater to cast on. For a plan that's a little bit less concrete and more of me asking some help from you, I have this Rowan Silk Stones yarn. It's 52% silk and 48% wool. I have 100 grams of this. This was one of the first yarns that I had thrifted a couple years ago now, and I thought that this combination, I've never really known what to knit this into, since it is just 100 grams of this white silk and wool yarn. It feels very random to me, but My sister is going to be having a little baby girl early next year, and my mom asked if I could knit up a bonnet for the baby, a proper little bonnet with the ruffly edge around the face. And I think it would be really special to do it in a classic white. So I thought that this yarn would be a perfect option for something like that. I haven't even begun to look at patterns for a ruffly baby bonnet, so I don't know if this is too much yarn for that or just enough. I can't imagine it wouldn't be enough, but if it's not, okay. However, if I could knit this into a bonnet plus, then I'd love to, make a little set of things. I don't know, maybe some little booties or just kind of cutesy things, more picture focused things, less function, more form. So I would love to know if you have a recommendation for a baby bonnet pattern or little accessories, a little set. What do you think? And is this a good option? I think it'd be fun. Very cute. And then the other idea that I had is a brand new release. It is literally just releasing today as I'm filming. And that is the brand new Ciro Sweater by akanoraknits. It's a very basic sweater with some details that are not so basic, and that is my favorite style of design. It's why I'm often gravitated towards akanoraknits patterns. So listen to this construction. I think it's really interesting. The description here says, this Ciro sweater is worked top down. It begins with a provisional cast on for the upper back yoke, which is worked flat from the bottom up with decreases to shape the shoulder slopes. Stitches are then picked up along the slopes to work the right and left shoulder separately, back and forth. The shoulder panels are joined to work the front yoke down in one piece. Once front and back are complete, stitches are cast on for the underarms and the body is worked and the round to the hem. The hem is divided into front and back sections and finished back and forth in 1x1 ribbing to form side slits. Stitches are picked up along the armhole edge to work the sleeves in the round, and a slit is created on each ribbed sleeve cuff. The neckline is finished with folded 1x1 ribbing band. So, did you catch that? The back of this sweater starts with a provisional cast on, and then you work bottom up until you're ultimately joining everything and then working down. I'm fascinated by this, and that was a fun thing to learn about it once I started looking at the pattern with this new release. But the thing that stole my heart with this sweater is the sleeve slit. So you should have also heard me then talk about there's the side slits on the sweater. So you have this super mega tall ribbing, and it has a slit so that you're working the front and back separately. I love that. But the really, really, really special part about this to me is that slit in the cuff. Oh my gosh, when I saw that immediately, I was like, yes, have to knit that. So that's what I really love about a basic sweater. Again, something that is ultimately just a sweater, but you see those little details and it makes it look luxe and it makes it look really expensive and fancy, and I love it. Not to mention the fact that it's something to look forward to while you're knitting an otherwise basic stockinette sweater. So another callback to the yarn that I picked up at that closing sale. I think that this yarn is destined to become a Ciro sweater. So more of the Ella Rae Classic 100% wool, and then this Rowan Kid Silk Haze, which I picked up there as well in this burnt orange color. So I also mentioned in that video that at the yarn sale, I was only able to find 5 balls of this mohair. I did not think that would be enough. And so I just thought, let me try my luck here. And I hopped onto Ravelry and went to my new favorite feature of shopping other people's yarn stash. And there was someone selling 2 balls of this yarn colorway. Now, it's not the same dye lot, but it was a good deal for this yarn, and it's going to make it possible for me to make this yarn into a sweater exactly the way that I had pictured without having to cut corners. And so I have gone ahead and purchased that yarn from the seller on Ravelry, and hopefully it'll be coming in the next week or so. But I figured I should just get ahead of it. That way, when I do knit up this project, I will be able to work in those different dye lots with the other balls of yarn that I have here. And I just think that this sweater will make the perfect fall cozy sweater. I think with the slits on the cuffs, it'll be the perfect sweater that I could just make those sleeves a little longer, a little cozier, but then pop them back and just fold them back, almost like a button-down shirt when it gets a little bit too warm. And same with the slits on the side. It's going to give a little bit ventilation. And honestly, I'm stoked about this one. It's another color that I'm eager to get on my needles. All the colors, I had a lot of color this season. I told you guys I was done knitting neutrals. I need more color in my wardrobe. So this is the season of color, and you can't stop me. This is a plan I'm very excited about. I wouldn't be surprised if as soon as that yarn came in, I got started on this one. So yes, I will most likely be knitting up this Ciro sweater by Nora this fall. Now, I do have one more plan, and this is arguably the most exciting plan. If you have been with me since the beginning, you might remember that in 2023, I knit up my Christmas dress. That was is it Augustine's number 11? When designers use numbers for their patterns, I'll never remember what it is, but maybe it was number 11. It was that red dress that had the fitted bust and then the honeycomb cables all over. I honestly look at that one sometimes and wonder how the heck I made that and how I made it in time for Christmas. So that was 2023's big Christmas dress project. Last year, 2024, I decided to tweak things a little, and I did my 2024 holiday dress, which I didn't actually finish for the holidays, but I'm happy it's done anyway. It was a fun project, and that was the Grayling sweater by Magdalena Parker, which I had knit into a long dress. And then I was thinking about what I should do this year. I truly do enjoy an annual project, and I'm just someone who loves to get festive. I love a theme. I love wearing something special and handmade for the holidays, and I even love this idea of having this collection of holiday knits in whatever capacity they may be to look at in the future and look back on. So I have no problem planning a holiday specific knit. The only thing is that the dresses do become less and less practical. Actually, the Grayling sweater dress from last year, 100% practical. Love that thing. It's literally like wearing a Snuggie, and I wore it as long as I could before the weather got too warm. So I could definitely see myself in the future making another sweater dress kind of like that. But I did want to shake things up and do things a little bit different. Now, you might also remember, if you've been here for a little bit, that I have this crocheted Christmas sweater that I love so much. I basically had just crocheted up all of these different little granny square Christmas motifs. Some of them had come from YouTube videos that I had seen. Some of them I just came up with by myself, and I stitched them all together. I did these granny stitch sleeves, and it's all acrylic and just like super fun. And the moment Thanksgiving is over, I am in that sweater as often as possible. So I do also get a lot of wear out of my Christmas sweater. And so I decided that this year, my big holiday knit project is going to be a Christmas cardigan. And it's even more special because I'm going to be designing it myself. It's going to be a huge color work project. It's going to be a very big undertaking. And as it stands right now, I have completely charted the color work that I have designed and am going to be, oh my gosh, a fucking giant fly just flew into my face. Oh my gosh. The fly's excited too. I'm like getting emotional. I'm very, very excited. Part of my plan for this year was to just create more from my own brain. And I had an idea after being inspired by a few other holiday sweaters and not finding anything that was exactly what I wanted. I thought, why can't I just make it personal? And so I'm a little bit torn right now on whether or not I should show you guys the design or if it would be kind of fun week by week to see the color work unfold and then maybe you could kind of guess what it is. Now, my plan is to measure a few of my favorite cardigans that I have in my wardrobe, a few jackets and shirts that I have to get the proportions right, and then knit up my gauge swatch and then kind of make a sewing pattern basically that I'm going to coordinate the gauge and knit everything with. But I'm unbelievably excited for you guys to see this. And this is probably the thing that once the yarn is here, I'll be working on the most. So for the main body color of this cardigan, I did really want something specific. So I did order that, as well as just a couple of random colors that I didn't have quite the right thing in my stash. But I have pulled aside some stash yarns that I'm going to be using for some of the details. This is a sweater's quantity of yarn that I have for my Texo sweater that I'm not going to be getting to in the next couple of months, I don't think, but I feel as though I could spare a few scraps of that yarn really. I also have this ball of yarn left over from my dad's sweater that I knit up this year. This was that other green mohair I was talking about. That is a Sanasgarn mohair that I thrifted. This is a green silk yarn that I don't think is actually going to be getting used right now because the color wasn't quite right. So that's one of the yarns I had to order. This is a little scrap from my ranunculus project. That I think I will be able to use just a little bit of. I have some white mohair that I think will come in handy, as well as some leftover yarn from my Lika pullover by Sorry Nordland. I have the ribbing that I had cut off of my dad's birthday sweater from 2024. And this is the only yarn I think that I have left over from that project. So I will definitely be needing a little bit of this. Speaking of that holiday dress from 2023, I have some leftover Drops brushed alpaca that I think could come in handy, as well as a thrifted mini skein of, it's called, what is it, 7th Floor Fibers. They have a tag over it, but I did thrift this yarn, and I think that's going to come in handy as well. And then some leftover knitting for Olive Merino for my Azucena pullover. I'll also be using a little bit of the leftover boucle from that Artemisia sweater that I had originally knit up. And so I'm just waiting on a very specific kind of orangey rust color that I ordered, a very specific green color that I had ordered, and then the background color of the cardigan is going to be this warm beige sort of color. So right now I'm going to sit on what the design is actually going to be, but it's going to be, I'll put some photos up here of the ones that inspired this idea. And that really can get us into some deadlines. So I can tell you kind of where my head is at as far as getting these things done, if I can get them done. But this is my number one priority, I believe. If you guys want to go ahead and start guessing in the comments what you think it might be, please do, because I think this is going to be a super fun project. And honestly, in the end, this cardigan, however it turns out, is just going to be very special to me for all of these reasons. So I'm very excited about this. Not to mention the fact I'm excited to go through my yarn stash and I heard you guys, you want a yarn stash tour. I will work on getting that to you as soon as I can. But it was fun to kind of pull out these little single skeins and little scraps and stuff that I have and find a use for them. So I might be doing more color work in 2026 for that reason alone. So those are the plans. Let's talk some deadlines. The first deadline that I have a mental note of is Fiber Festival weekend, which is October 17th to the 19th. I don't have my plans fully hashed out yet for that weekend. However, I think a couple of projects that would be good to kind of have in mind if I could get them done for that weekend would be, first of all, if I could kick myself in the butt to get the Stitches sweater done and wear that to a fiber event, I think that might be the best thing to get that one done. Just get it done. The other project I think would be a really great fit for that sort of festival weekend would be the Miles shirt jacket by Ozetta. I think that might be a nice layering piece to have for that weekend if I could get it done in time. The other deadline I have in mind is the second weekend in November. We think will be my sister's baby shower, so any baby knits are gonna have to be done. Well, they don't have to be done by then. I know that she wants a sweater for the baby with the baby's name on it, but no one else knows the name of the baby right now, so I'm gonna save that one for when the baby is actually born. But for the baby shower, I would at least like to get that little bonnet done, so I want to kind of have that done by that second weekend in November. Now, the funny little deadline that I kind of kept mentioning in regards to either the Clematis Sweater or the Artemisia Sweater is November 21st. Wicked Part 2 comes out. And I think it'd be really fun to wear one of those things to see the movie. It's completely an arbitrary goal, but I just think that would be really fun. So that's a very silly little deadline that's really just for my own personal enjoyment. And then, of course, we have Thanksgiving on November 27th this year. I'm probably going to wear the grayling dress that I finished for this Thanksgiving since I didn't get to wear it till last Thanksgiving. But I also thought that it could be really fun to wear either the Rosie Sweater or the orange Ciro Sweater for Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving related festivities. And honestly, the day after, I'd love to already be wearing my Christmas cardigan. That's ambitious, so we could always push that off a little bit if we have to, but that's just a temporary, these are all dates that I have in mind floating around in my head. So it's a lot, but it's exciting and it's colorful, and I hope you're excited about it too. I often mention this in this seasonal planning style video that this isn't just for people who talk about their knits on YouTube. I 100% recommend all knitters to just have this seasonal evaluation and take a peek at where you're at with things. It's a good moment to stop and reflect. Did you knit everything that you wanted to last season? Is there anything that you really wish you had some extra time for? Are there any projects on your needles that you feel like are not bringing you joy anymore and it's time to just put them into hibernation or to get them done or to frog them? And then I think it's a good idea, especially this time of year, to stop and look ahead at any future deadlines you might have and see what it is that you can accomplish in that time. Obviously, no one is knitting up all of these things in the next few months, but a girl can try, okay? So I would love to know what it is that's like top of your priority list for fall and end of year knitting. Is there any project in particular that I've chatted about today that you are most looking forward to seeing? A lot of times that helps me decide what to cast on next. So please let me know. And don't forget to enter the giveaway and be on the lookout on Saturday, September 20th to check out the giveaway winners announcement. I think that's everything I have for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, the easiest way you can let me know is just by giving it a thumbs up. And then if you subscribe and ring the bell, you're going to be notified anytime I post a new video. However, you can usually expect a Saturday morning upload at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. With that, a big ol' thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, you guys, bye.